Good morning. John Mashni here. I'm actually so pumped to talk to this guy right now. My guy, my friend, advisor, I would say, and just great dude, great visionary entrepreneur. Armando Leduc is with me today, and Armando and I just want to give a quick intro because I think it's worth it. Armando and I met at a visionary event, right? This is a number of years ago. Wasn't it 3 years ago, maybe, or some? I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly, but a number of
yeah.
years ago. And I will just say I immediately connected with you. At least, I don't know what you felt about me, but you started talking about your business as a movie, and I
Yeah.
just loved it. And so I am so pumped to chat. I would love to talk more about that. But Armando, thanks for joining and agreeing to carve out a little time and chat.
Thanks for having me, man.
So
You're
tell
you
me
you
really
rock.
quick, give me a quick like 30-second. Who are you, man? What do you do?
Oh, wow. Okay. So we're a production company first and foremost. So we've been in the entertainment business since 98. And when I say that, it sounds ancient. The 1900s, as they say,
Back when you were 3 years old,
right?
right?
And so, entertainment has always been a part of my life. And so in 2012, I figured, hey, why not start a production company and get to doing my own projects? And so I started a company called Sketchy Characters Productions. And then I rebranded and created a DBA called Leduc Entertainment, which is my last name, in 2016, and started. I said, why can't we bring the thought of entertainment into a business setting? And so that's how Leduc Entertainment got started. And so we just started working with businesses across the spectrum, car dealerships. We were doing weddings. We were doing acting reels. We're doing any kind of video you could think about,
Yeah, any corporate type video, right?
any corporate type video.
Yep.
But everything changed after COVID, and started working with a friend of mine who started a company called Eight Figure Firm, and that's how I got introduced to the legal space, and learned a lot from him. Right, he mentored me into how to scale a company and how to use content to do that, and so we've been rocking since 2020 in the legal space, and using content marketing as a means to not just build a personal brand, but authority, credibility, and trust. And then podcasting kind of fell into my lap. I started a podcast called Spaghetti on the Wall because, Lewis was like, hey, man, you're a production company. You need to have some sort of production going on the
Yeah.
regular. And I was like, oh, well, podcasting is super easy to do. I can have conversations all day. I love answering questions. I love asking questions, and I love connecting with people. Little did I know that the podcast was going to be so powerful in terms of connections, in terms of opening doors, in terms of introducing me to people that I would never have met. And so the reason I would became a part of the Visionary Forum was because I had Rufus on my show, and I've known Rufus for a while because of BNI, but it wasn't until we connected on the podcast that we really understood each other. And then he was like, oh, wow, you should really consider coming to this Visionary Forum. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I joined the Visionary Forum as a result, met you, met John Klon, met a bunch of people that had a huge impact on my life. I'm in several masterminds because of the podcast, even Lewis, who ran Eight Figure Firm. The reason why we connected again was because I had him on like a Zoom call, and it wasn't a podcast at the time. It was just an interview I was like, hey, I just want to know how you became successful. Right. And I just started asking him questions, and it turned out to be a podcast, but it just shows the power of connection and power of relationships. And that has been the thing that this past year in 2025 has been something that I've been focused on, primarily helping my clients not just create content, but how do they use podcasting and content to build deeper relationships, to open up doors that weren't not there, how to build authority, credibility, and trust. And as a result, I was just in San Diego for Mardi Gras, And there's a guy there that I mentored, Jeremiah, who runs now a company, him and Brandon, who I introduced to. I was mentoring both of them. At the time, Jeremiah was making, I think, $1,500 a month and living in his stepdad's closet,
Holy cow.
like living in his stepdad's closet. Now he's making over $150,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue and rocking it out. So when I get to experience people's breakthroughs and their success as a result of my strategies, it's almost more fulfilling than my own success, you know? Seeing somebody being able to,
Yeah,
like,
that's
change their
cool.
life as a result, I was like, "Man, there's nothing better."
I think one thing that I noticed about you is you're at this amazing intersection of the artist who understands there's an art side of life, right? The
Mhm,
creating and like and kind of just internally, right? Like I know you still act, right? I
mhm.
know you're in that mode. You sing too, don't you? Don't you have a singing background?
I
Am I right
do,
about this?
I
I know.
do.
I won't ask you to sing, but
That's fine. It's early in the morning, but yeah, I studied opera in school and sang barbershop and sang in indie rock bands when I was, younger, and then sang in salsa bands and sang on Bourbon Street and did cover bands. So yeah, music has been a huge part of my life for a long time.
but then you have that artistic side and then you bring it to the business world. And I think that intersection right now is super useful in especially all the different trends that are going on with social media, with kind of like the barriers to entry are so much lower for content, right? I mean, it's literally it's just, do you have a phone, right? I mean, do you have an internet connection,
Yep.
right? Or and do you have just whatever it is, that courage to just like say something, right? I mean, I don't you probably know it better than I do, but I just love where you take that artistic side, you merge it with this desire to like build a business, and then now you're teaching people how to do it through podcasting. And I think podcasting is just a tool, right? It's still about relationships. Isn't that kind of
Yeah.
is that how you think about it, or maybe something else?
100%. I stumbled upon a huge epiphany a few months ago when I got asked to speak at the Eight Figure Firm conference on overcoming imposter syndrome. And as I was putting my speech together, you know, I was thinking about all of my improv training, right? I studied with Upright Citizens Brigade and the National Comedy Company and all of these different improv organizations, comedy sports, and it was such an amazing time in my life. Love improv, but I started looking at. Do you know the man in the arena
Oh, for
speech?
sure. The Teddy Roosevelt?
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
opened up
that's
my
right.
speech with it, right? It is not of the critic who counts. It is not the man who points at the strong man stumbling, right? It is the credit belongs to the man that's in the arena,
Oh, love it.
right? And I th- a lot of people, they sit around and they wonder about what it could be if they were able to get over their stage fright and get over their imposter syndrome to actually create content and experience what comes with that. And as we're going through it, I was like, man, podcasting and creating content is such an easy way to get more stage time because I think people people don't really understand what stage time can do for them until they start. For instance, when I first started my journey as a lead singer in a cover band on Bourbon Street, and I got asked to sing because I was like, oh, I can sing. I had my iPad up and I had to like read the lyrics as it was happening. And I was super scared, but I did it anyway,
Yeah.
And then after a month, I knew the songs and I didn't, and I got more creative with it. But it wasn't, it was because I was on stage every night doing it over and over and over again that I got through the four phases of learning, the unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. And it was only because of the stage time. I will tell you, creating content on social media. If you gave me a script or if you gave me a song, I could hide behind it, right? Because I could hide behind the character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you interviewed me or if you were like wanting to know about me, I would just clam up. And so what I learned was as I started doing more content, as I started doing more podcasts, as I started doing more stage time, my confidence grew and I go, oh, wow, it was all within me the entire time, which brings me to the three rules of improv. Say
Tell
yes
me, yeah,
and,
love it. Tell me. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Say yes and okay.
Say yes and, right? So me and you were having a discussion. Is this written? No. Unless you believe, we don't have
The
free
lack of
will,
free will. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
we've had that discussion before.
I know we
But
have, yeah.
but we're yes anding this conversation, right? Everybody improvises every day. At no point are we writing this, right? And so you say something, I'm saying yes, I'm building on it. You're saying yes, you're building on it, and we're building a story together. This is a story right now that we're
Yeah.
building in
And
a
so
wonderful way.
yes and so I don't know if you knew this. I used to act, right? So I
Yeah,
have an acting background too. Love improv. Yes, and means because I think sometimes it's good to have an example of what it like the opposite of it is or the reverse of it is, right?
right.
So like, can we do that? Can we
Sure.
demonstrate? Yeah. So like, let's say because when you do improv, I think some people think you just sit there and you're like making stuff up. I love
Right.
what you're saying right now. Is no, there's actually rules or principles to follow that make it so that it's easier, right? And you can just flow with it. And if everyone knows the rules, then it just flows. So like so for example, and I actually think it's not as easy as it sounds because someone might come into like bust into a room and say like, "Hey, everybody, put your hands up," right? Or so, I don't know, like that. I'm just literally just
Sure.
made that up.
Right.
So what would be an example of you following the rules? Say yes and like what? Give me an example. I come in the room, I act like I have a gun. Everybody, put your hands up. What's a following the rule?
I'm putting my hands up and I'm hitting the ground, right?
Okay,
That's yes
yeah.
anding.
What's the opposite? What would be the opposite?
Um, that's not a gun in your hand. That's a banana. And you're like, okay, this is
You just
great.
killed the scene,
You just killed the
right?
scene, right? It goes nowhere. It's a denial. And look, we all live accustomed to saying no, but right? We're all accustomed to judging. We're all accustomed to not going with it. And that's just from trauma as kids, right? And so when we say yes and there's just so much more possibility in a yes and it's more collaboration. It makes you feel good, which goes to the second rule of improv:
Yeah.
make your
What's the
partner look
second?
like a rock star. If I'm making you look like a rock star by accepting, right? If you come in and you're like, everybody put your hands up, and I'm like, oh my God. And the more I give to you in terms of edifying you with what it is you're talking about, and I'm playing this character that's like super scared, then you don't have to work as hard.
Yeah.
You don't have to work as hard to be so mean, right? Like, oh my God, he's got a gun, right? And so now you can kind of play a little bit. And I think when you want to make your partner look like a rock star, you want to be giving, right? And you want to give them gifts, and by giving gifts, meaning give them something to play off of, give them something that makes them feel like their opinion matters, right? Which goes to the third rule of improv: say the first
Yeah.
thing that comes to your head. And we're so quick to bring in the editor. We're so quick to edit and judge an idea before it's even formed. And I'm like, guys, it doesn't even exist, and you're trashing it. Which
Oh, so
I
good.
love, dude. I love you so much when I approached you with my script and you said, you know what, I'm gonna before I even read it,
I know
I'm gonna
what you're
tell
gonna
you
say.
I love it. Right. And I was like, wow. And he's like, because you were like, every single person is going to have an opinion and some critique and about it. And I just want you to know that before I even read the thing, I love it. And I was like, wow, what a powerful statement. Because you're right. Everybody's going to judge. It's easy to judge. It's easy to
Yeah.
sit. You're watching NFL, and you guys, what's that dude doing? He's trash, right? Like, are you kidding me? How would
So
you,
true.
and we're just
Everybody's good at quarterback, right? Everybody's the best quarterback.
and I'm like, wow. And look, I'm not immune to that. We all get into that mode where you're like, are you kidding me right now? You can't catch that ball. You're getting paid millions of
Oh,
dollars.
I love referees, Armando. I love referees. Just
Yeah.
wanna say that. Just
Do you?
just everyone no, I just it's so hard to watch sports, man. It's so
Yeah.
hard, dude. Especially when you're a fan. If you don't
Yeah.
care, it's kinda
Yeah.
fun. But if you care, you're just like every little
Yeah.
decision, right? You're like, "Why'd he call timeout? Why didn't he call timeout? How's
Yeah.
that a flag?" Anyway, I love
Yeah.
what you said. That statement came from me from being around artists, being around creative people, and also being around people that are taking risks. And, what I noticed was, man, you know how hard it is, and actually you do know how hard it is to take ideas, write a script, and then have the guts to start showing it to people. Like that is a tough thing. And even if you say, "Hey, I'm good with it," it takes time, it takes effort, right? You're putting yourself out there. You're saying, "I want to affect people. I want to make people laugh." Like this, you're putting yourself out there. And I heard a screenwriter one time basically say exactly that, kind of what I say now, which is like, "Hey, I'm so his wife wanted to read his script, and he basically said, "I'll let you read it, but you have to tell me you love it." Because everybody else I give this to is gonna say, like, the agent's gonna say something that people are gonna want to change it. People are gonna want to rewrite it. People are gonna say it sucks, and they're gonna say, "Here's where it slows down," and all this kind of stuff. And as a lawyer, like, I get sent scripts all the time, and I always say, "Why do you want me to read this?" Like, because like I will read it differently depending on why I'm reading it. Sometimes it's legal. Hey, are we like violating any rights? Right? Or do we have any defamation risk or copyright risk or whatever? And that's very different reading of a script. Trust me, it's not as fun, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like that's the beautiful part of what we can do to support people is just let people know like, hey, you know, I I honor you for putting this in front of people. And good work, man. And if you're if and I don't think everybody should edit, right? I mean, it should not always be edit mode. Sometimes you got to have that mode. It's like we're trying to birth this thing, so we need people that support and shepherd, right, and get it, help us get it out the door, right? Not everybody's going to be the writer, not everybody's the editor, not it's like usually only one director, right? So it's like everybody's got a role, and you got to play that role as well as you can. So anyway, so what's the third rule again? Because I feel like we're going back and forth on it.
So say yes and make your partner look like a rock star, and then say the first thing that comes to your head.
Say the first. I love it, love it.
Yeah,
And do you think so? Those rules, do you think are you teaching those when they're doing podcasting? Like, hey, follow that stuff.
totally. I think it's the perfect medium in which to apply those three rules. I will say I just had an epiphany just now as you're talking about people needing at the beginning stages of anything, right? Like a kid learning to walk. Could you imagine if your kid is learning to walk and you're all like, "Get it together, Billy. Like, what's wrong with you?
Your first step is way too short.
You
That's
can't
way too
even
short.
stand. Yeah,
Yeah, sit down.
yeah,
That's it.
sit
You're
down.
done.
What are you
You
doing?"
gotta go. You gotta find some other way to move. I'm buying a wheelchair. Forget it. Just
Right.
forget about it. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
It would
right.
just be like,
And
oh my god.
like, yes, and we're so critical of ourselves starting something new that, when people are like, "Oh, I wanna start a podcast or I wanna do this." I'm like, "You're not gonna be Joe Rogan out the gate.
You
You're
might never be. You're never gonna be Joe Rogan,
And
right?
maybe
That's the
you never
reality.
will be, right?
Yeah.
But that
But
doesn't
who
mean you don't
cares?
need to do it, right? Like, and so the epiphany I had was that a lot of times we're sometimes just cheerleaders. We're
Okay.
just cheerleaders for our clients that are like, "Hey, don't worry about it. Keep it going. Keep your eye on the prize. I know you're feeling bad about how you look, how you sounded, whatever." And they go, "Can you give me some feedback? Can you give me some feedback at the very beginning?" And I'm like, "I won't do it.
Keep
I
going.
won't."
Yeah. Just keep writing. And keep. Yeah.
At least we got to wait until you're at least 30 episodes in before I start any sort of critique. Because if I start critiquing you way too early, you start getting heady. Now you're thinking about
Love that.
everything, right? And
Love
so
that.
I'm like, I don't want you thinking. I want you being. I want you experiencing. I don't
Yeah.
want the editor to show up early. And
And
so, yeah,
do you think that's because, like, some of being successful is having like an action bias, right? So not a thinking bias. Like, I know you always got to think, you got to reflect and say, like, hey, what am I doing? But I feel like a lot of the really successful people I know have this action bias. Like, hey, let's do it. Let's dive in. Let's get stuff done. Do you think that's the case, or is that what you're talking through?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think the most successful people go, all right, let's try it out. It may fail, and that's okay. But the people that are afraid of failure, or afraid of success, you have that too, right? Some people were like, "Oh my god, what if it's super successful and then I have to," and I'm like, "Wow, is that what you're thinking about?" Like,
That would be horrible. Yeah, you became too successful, right?
I'm like,
Um,
so yeah. So yes, we're super into the let's take action. You're going to learn as you go. Rufus, I'll tell you, I spent 2 years talking to that dude about starting his podcast. And I'm like, yo, can you just start? Like, you got a lot to say. I don't understand why you have so much judgment and critique of yourself. Who wants to listen to this? Blah, blah, blah. So he starts his
but he's
podcast.
smart. He's smart,
He's
dude.
amazing, right? And he starts his podcast, and this launches. Do you know that he's doing a YouTube channel show currently
I
called
do.
Built? Yeah, Built
I
by
love it.
You.
I
And
follow. I subscribe. I
yeah.
love it.
And I'm like, and
Doing
now he's getting sponsorships for this, and the confidence that he's been able to get as a result of putting himself out there has just been like phenomenal. And I'm like, dude, you're unrecognizable. I remember you
true.
having conversations with
No,
you 2
it's true,
years
man.
ago when you were like, "Oh, I don't know," and blah, 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 and now you're like, "Yeah, how do I optimize my channel, and how am I getting sponsorships, and where am I get," you know what I mean? I'm like, "That's what I'm talking about." Now we're
Way
having
more
conversations
fun convo. Way more fun convo
100%.
too. You what you said, Armando, makes me think of this great phrase. I read it in a book called Mastery. I think is by George Leonard. I read this book like 25 years ago, probably, but the end of the book is one of my favorite stories. It's like the founder of judo, or one of the founders, he asked to be buried in his white belt. Have you heard the story? Dude,
No.
I just love the story so much because I have a martial arts background, and I just love martial arts. But the founder of judo said, "When I die, bury me in my black belt because it's a new beginning, and I'm not afraid to be a beginner." And I just love that. We say this all the time in my circles, like, don't be afraid to put on the white belt, man. Like, when you walk into like martial arts, dude, you don't go in with a black belt, right? You wear the white belt so everybody knows you're a beginner, and it's okay, right? I mean, it's okay to put on. It's I think I say all the time, like, it's okay. Wear the white belt and don't be afraid to wear a bib. You know?
D I think we need to be having more conversations like this. Like, in general,
Yeah.
I think people have forgotten this process, and I don't fear. I am aware that AI is taking away a lot of trial and error and learning through the doing,
Mm,
because people are not, because they're like trying to circumvent the journey. They're circumventing the actual thing that is makes life worth living, right? I'm
love
like, it's like, so, could I use AI to write my project? Sure, I could use that and to write my screenplay, and and to write music, but 2012. And I remember it like it was yesterday because it was so impactful for me. I was in the New Orleans Museum of Art, and there was a did you see that?
it.
It was awesome.
Giving you a thumbs up.
All
Oh, look
right.
what is
Right.
up, dude? I love
It's
this.
all, oh, you didn't know that on these? They got these, like, things and stuff. Anyway, I get sidetracked very, very easily.
Love it.
Shiny object syndrome. So, 2012, the New Orleans Museum of Art, they brought in this art exhibit called Lifelike, and it blew my mind. The movement behind, like, this art form was all of these artists creating everyday objects out of other crazy materials. For instance, this guy built out a hefty trash bag, like, just it looked like a full hefty trash bag, but it was made of marble. And it was so intricate. Like, you would look at it like this, and you would
It looked
think it
like
was
a bag,
plastic.
like a plastic
It
bag.
looked like a hefty plastic trash bag.
But it's
For
solid
what?
marble?
Of solid marble. Of just it's the and I was like, "For what?" And it was like, "No, for what? No, no, I'm building it to sell it. I'm doing." It was all of these, the psychology behind these artists was that I'm just going to do the art, and painstakingly so, for the journey of it, for the art of it, not necessarily for the end result. And I think we're all trying to get to the end result. and we're missing the journey. We're
Oh
missing
my
the whole
gosh.
fucking point. Sorry for cussing, but we're missing.
I love that though. I think that's so I mean, I just think there's so much truth in it where we want the shortcut. We you ever heard this story of there's like and I'm not a Buddhist expert by far, but I think there's different types of Buddhism and they call it like little ferry boat, big ferry boat. I think it's Hinayana, Mahayana, and again, I'm probably slaughtering this because I read this probably 20 some years ago. Haven't talked about it in probably 20 years. But there's this idea where you're trying to reach this faraway land like a mountaintop, right? And you got to cross this river and you take this boat to get there. And so in one version, the little ferry boat version, the goal of your whole life is to get to this place. And that's your goal. And then the big ferry boat version, you have the exact same goal, except when you get there, you realize you're in the same spot where you started. It's just this like amazing way to think about it. It's like, hey, I'm not the end result because I think what you're saying is when people think I just want the result and I don't want to do the work to get there, it's like they start to do stuff where it doesn't matter how I get there. And I don't get all the benefits of the journey and I'm missing out on, hey, I would have built the skills, I would have built the relationships, I would have kind of honestly probably got thicker skin, right? I would have developed all these other different sensitivities and skill sets just by going through it, just by screwing up. I might have realized this isn't even the right path, right? So yeah, I love what you're saying there.
You've robbed yourself essentially. We're robbing ourselves currently. People are robbing themselves every single time they try and circumvent the journey. Isn't there a book, The Obstacle is the Way?
Yeah, the Ryan
Right?
Holiday. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
The Alchemist talks about that too. There was there was the story of, the story, this guy, New York entrepreneur, super successful, goes to Mexico, right? And meets a fisherman. And the fisherman's on the dock showing him, taking him out. They were fishing, came back, and the guy's like, "Oh my god, this is the most amazing thing ever. Love this. Why don't you make this a business?" And he goes, "For what?" "Well, so that you can hire more people and make more money." And he's like, "For what?" "So that you can create distribution and blah 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 blah." "For what?" "So that you can, have more free time." "For what?" "So that you can travel more." "For what?" "So that you can come to Mexico and fish."
Stay on a
Right?
boat, fish on a boat. Yeah.
It's like, so to do all of that, to do this, what I'm doing right now, and it's like, wow. Another book that just really changed me was Live a Thousand Years. A good friend of mine passed away at an early age. Harvard graduate, orthopedic surgeon, was in the army, and we were roommates. And he went for a run and died on the run at 30 something years old.
Wow.
And a friend of mine gave me this book when I was kind of going through it, and it was Live a Thousand Years by Giovanni Rivera. Great book, by the way. Reads like a Christmas Carol type
Okay.
of book.
Like a story
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
So basically, it's this guy who's a New York investor type, and he's like rushing through New York trying to get to a lunch meeting, bumps into this old man, and the old man's like, I'll see you later. And he's like, whatever. Goes into this diner, and time has stopped, right? Except for him. Like everybody's just frozen in time. And he goes out Times Square, everybody's frozen in time. And he can hear these clocks chiming, boom, boom, boom. And he follows it, and he bumps into the old man, and it's Father Time, and he has stopped time to teach this guy a lesson. The
Oh,
12
cool.
chimes, right? And so each lesson he gets an hour back, right? And he takes him to a tombstone with his grandfather, and he said, your grandfather lived 1,000 years. And it's like, no, he didn't. He lived from 18 something to whatever. And he goes, yeah, but what do you notice about that timeline, right? He goes, well, when he was born and when he died. And he's like, yes, but everybody forgets that little dash in the middle, the dash, the life, right? And he's like, he lived 1,000 years because of what he did in his life, right? And not the beginning and the end. And oftentimes, right, we're just going and going and going at 120 miles an hour, and we're not slowing down to enjoy what it is that we're doing in the first place,
Oh
right?
my gosh, you're hitting on so much stuff, dude. I think well, I love it because one thing I noticed about myself is that well, and I think back to COVID, like I felt internally, after you kind of get through that initial like what is happening, I remember feeling like where all the joy is like sucked out of every conversation. And I just felt this like so much. I think it was like April, May of that year, that 20 was it 2020, right? So I just remember that so much. That's why I actually started doing children's books because I I had a manuscript written, and once COVID hit, I put it away. I set it down for months. And then once I started noticing, even in my own conversations, literally every person I talked to, nobody was happy. Like it was just like sad and depressing. And people were just like, I guess this is life now. And and so one thing I kind of thought to myself was, you know what the world needs more than anything is just somebody to make them laugh and somebody to bring some joy to this everyday process that we all go through.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
man, that just resonates because I think you're exactly right. We sometimes we need that interrupt to just be like, wait, crack a joke, back to your improv, right? Go with it. Don't negate it. Somebody's trying to bring joy to your life, and most of the time, most people will just do that. They won't do yes and they'll be like, no, can't we can't laugh.
Right. Yeah.
Stop. We can't do something new. We can't start something new. I can't interview somebody. I can't do my podcast. I can't, well, whatever. There's a million things you could say, right?
If people are watching this, which by the way, this has just been a really good I need to be talking to you at least twice a month. You know what I mean? Like I just got I love talking to you, man. I like we're just I feel like we're made from the same cloth. So this conversation was so necessary for me, and this is something else that I teach my clients. Creating content doesn't necessarily have to be for the audience receiving it. A
Oh yeah.
lot of times, you creating content is the reinforcement of the message back to yourself. Me being on these podcasts and me speaking this stuff out loud reinforces this message back to myself, right? Of
Man.
what it is that I'm doing here, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
am
yeah.
I focused on the journey or am I focused on the destination? And every time I get it on a podcast and I'm able to speak my truth and really, and put myself out there and create content, it's a nice reinforcement to that. And so if you're watching this podcast, you obviously take whatever it is that you want. But I also think that people are so pain avoidant right now, especially Americans, right? We're so pain avoidant. And because we're pain avoidant, what do we have? Air conditioning, drive through, microwaves, instant pot,
Well, we always
air
so
fryers.
much stuff, right?
We're,
Yeah,
we're, we're
like
just conditioned, right? And we're so, we don't know the value of pain, right? And I'm like, and I'm going through, my own things right now. And what I'm noticing about, the struggles, sort of in my personal life, that I am embracing pain in a way that I didn't before.
wow.
And I understand the value of it. About a month ago, I'm on a scooter in Atlanta going to the 8-figure firm conference. And I fell. I fall off the scooter and like I land on my shoulder, and like separate my clavicle a little bit. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like I'm laying there on the ground in Atlanta and everybody's walking by. Nobody's helping. It's crazy. Ended up going to the ER. But all that to say, I was like, wow. When was the last time I felt pain like this? I didn't. It's been a long time. Like I remember feeling pain, like playing sports or whatever, breaking a bone, and you feel that pain. And as I'm sitting there going through that pain, right? I had a moment of gratitude that in the spectrum of life and in the spectrum of emotions and in the spectrum of being able to feel that I was able to actually feel that, right? Because I think that when you're able to experience pain at that level, that on the flip side, you can really experience happiness and joy on that level as well. But if you don't know pain, how can you really know
Man.
joy?
So, yeah, you're hitting I love this combo. There's a great book that I read a long time ago called The Gift of Pain. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I'm gonna write
Oh,
that
dude,
down.
Philip Yancey is deep, man. It's I would say it's one of the craziest books. And just to give you a hint of kind of the message, he went back and he studied people who couldn't feel pain. And there's stories like, I'm gonna slaughter the details because it's probably been 20 years at least since I read this book. But essentially, medically, people who can't feel pain, it's one of the diseases that's like known over history as like leprosy. So they couldn't feel pain, and it wasn't a disease that was like you would catch. It was a disease that because you didn't feel pain when you injured yourself, you didn't your body didn't communicate to your brain to stop doing what you're doing. Like you could have a broken foot and you wouldn't even know it, right? Or like, and I hate to be like gross or whatever, but like a rat could be eating your toe, you wouldn't even know. Like your toe, you just see a bone. So it's just fascinating how he studied and then reflected on how like pain is actually this gift that we have. And even when you were talking, it made me think of honestly the most valuable lessons I can think of in my life are all come out of like some painful event. And I can go back and name them, like for sure. And even I think with my own kids, I actually look for these moments that are painful for them. Because that's like when someone's so receptive to almost any type of encouragement, support, learning, like
Mm,
that adversity, sometimes we think, well, why do I like because you always ask the question, why do I go through this pain? Right? Like why? Why am I going through this? And sometimes the answer is we're like so hard-headed. We're not even listening. Right, dude? We need the pain from like a cosmic level because we are just not listening to what's happening around us, right? I mean, it's like I'm not saying that's your shoulder, but I'm just saying that's
100%. No, it definitely was. It definitely was. 'Cause, the thoughts I was having right beforehand, I'm just in autopilot. I'm an autopilot, right? I'm like, I'm on top of the world. I'm getting asked to speak at these conferences, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And it's just like, "Er, stop." And like, yes, if we're not in those moments, I always 100% believe when somebody dies, when there is an accident, when there is illness, when there is pain, when there's something happening that jolts you back to your knees, right? Like me on my back looking up at the
yeah,
Atlanta sky
yeah,
and
Jesus.
nobody and people walking by me. Like I'm going from this super high, right? On top of the world on the scooter to on the ground
That's crazy.
as
Yeah.
a nobody, right? Looking up and people walking by. You know what I mean? And it's like, you are letting the ego drive, right? And look, I think ego is important. I don't think that I know a lot of people are like, oh, you got to keep the ego in check. Keep the ego in check. There's good about the ego, obviously. It is when the ego takes over that's the problem, right? But that just goes to the balance of life. But I
Yep.
really
Yeah, yeah,
believe that in pain, just like you were saying, on the back end of that pain, there's always that silver lining, right? There's always the seed of an equivalent benefit, as what Napoleon Hill talks about in
mhm,
Think and Grow Rich, right?
yeah.
We think that it's the end. We're so focused on trying to pain avoid with drugs and alcohol and pain avoid and I don't want to face it and I don't want to face it and I don't want to face it, and that becomes your journey, right? Instead of embracing the pain and what am I learning from this?
Oh man. So true. And honestly, there's a love there. There's even a like a I would say like a biblical reference to like Second Corinthians. This has affected me insanely, where Paul talks about he has a thorn in his flesh, and no one knows what that really meant, but some crazy injury that affected him. And he prays over and over, like, God take it away. And guess what? Doesn't take it away. And I think sometimes we think that we have like inadequacies, we have something that happened to us in our life, right? Some injury, right? Or something that we think we can never recover from. And like in reality, the line that Paul says is essentially like God's grace is sufficient for him. Like you use this as a way to do what you do and bring someone else glory. Like that's so powerful too, because it's not about taking away the pain. Like that's not what it's about. It's about using that for something greater. And because now you're receptive. Now it's not about, hey, look how good I am, right? It's more of like, look what I can do with this pain. And that's just like crazy powerful. Man,
Yeah,
dude,
it's
we're getting super deep here. There's like a million other things I want to talk to you about. I
that
know we're
always
both
happens though. Me
I
me
know, dude.
when
I
me and
love
you
it.
talk, man, it really we get beyond the superficial very quickly, which
Yeah,
is why
dude.
I
It's
love talking to you because it is such a beautiful time. Such a beautiful
Well,
time, man.
I know we both got to go here. Let me ask you this final question because I think it's a big important piece I'm trying to wrestle with. I'd love to get your some thoughts on it. It'll probably lead us to like another combo because you're teaching people to go live, right? Be on a podcast, interview people, put themselves out there. But how much does authenticity and being authentic to yourself play into that? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Because sometimes I think people are afraid to be themselves in a venue like this. What's your thoughts on just authenticity and how do we incorporate it into something like this?
We all have masks, right? We all put on the mask of whatever, right? The professional mask, the dad mask, the, whatever mask that you're putting on. Some people are 4 or 5 masks deep, you know? And so when my opinion is my humble opinion, for that matter, right? Like I speak these things not as an expert, right? It's just my
No, it's just
opinion.
you're in it though. You're in the
Yeah,
world. I'd
but
love
but
to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
but my thought is on authenticity is that I don't think that you can read your way through authenticity, write your way through authenticity, think your way through authenticity. Like I think you have to put yourself out there and I love the little comeback, the callback, I should say, from the beginning of the conversation, in which stage time to me creates the opportunities to understand who you are, and through that process creates the authenticity. For instance, I'm talking to you about this. I didn't realize we were even going to go into this, right? Like, but it just spoke to me where I am right now, and being in this vulnerable space, and understanding. And I was like, that's my truth. This is my authenticity, right? But because I've done this so many times, and I've been on stages, and a microphone is like, I feel like I was born with a microphone to my mouth. But it just it's you can be more authentic when you start to peel back the layers of who you think you're supposed to be for people, and you start focusing on who you want to be to yourself, right? And stop the lying, stop the facade, stop all of that, and just be okay with being in pain, and the pain of being uncomfortable, being new at something, being, so I
Yeah.
love the fact that we had this whole entire pain conversation, because it is painful starting something new. It is painful putting yourself out there. It is painful. It's just painful. And because it's not something that is you're used to, and there's so many unknowns that you have no idea, and and because people don't love operate, there are people that love operating on adrenaline. They're adrenaline
For
junkies,
sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
don't
yeah.
really, that love jumping off cliffs without a net. But most people are not like that. And so if you can operate and do it scared, right? Sometimes you're going to be scared, but you do it anyway. And through that process, you will find your authentic self, right? Because you will push yourself beyond the boundaries. And only through the obstacles and only through overcoming the thing and going through pain do we realize who we are. Right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how
It's
that's
good.
how we find out who we really are, our authentic self. We haven't tested ourselves enough to know who we are, to know what we would be like in that particular situation until you
Man.
put yourself out there, right? And so that's I would urge everybody to embrace pain, embrace uncomfortableness, and go after something, right? Not knowing what the outcome could be because that's all part of the journey anyway, and seeing what happens on the backside of it because that's where you will know who you are, right? Like people a lot of times they'll go, and another callback, right? What would you do if somebody comes into the bank and says, "Everybody hit the ground," right?
Yeah,
A lot of people are like, "Well, I would rush the guy. I would do this. I would do that. You know what I mean?" But you don't really know what you would do
that's
in that
right.
situation. But you would know after, and you would know authentically what kind of person you would be in those moments, right? And so that's where authenticity comes from, I think, is from going through tough things, trauma, and how are you overcoming
Yeah,
those
that's good.
things and the scars that you have, right? To over, those are the things that make you who you are, right? I think the guy from Canada, Jordan Peterson,
Yeah,
was talking about and I know this goes we can go right down another rabbit hole, but
love it.
I'll finish this. He talked about if you don't have the capacity for evil or for doing bad, right? If you don't have that capacity and you keep that in check, that creates the moral fiber, right? That creates like if you don't have those thoughts and you don't have anything to check and like you're not really courageous, right? Like you really don't have if you have the capacity to end somebody's life like truly, but you keep that in check, that's courage. That
And
is
strength, and
strength,
strength.
right?
Yeah,
That is where it's at. It's not, oh, it's easy for this dude to do it, right? Because he doesn't even think that way, right? But the other end being able to the impulses that you have and saying no to the impulses and having the discipline to do the things that you know you're supposed to do, and you know what I mean, like that is authenticity. You're truly tested when you have those things going on, right?
I love it. Man, I know we both gotta go, Armando. Let's continue the convo. I
Please.
I will say too, like, just yeah, I love talking. I feel like almost like a kidship to all the stuff we talked through. And, yeah, I think it's truly the blending of the art, the artist, and the entrepreneur. You put them in the same space, and just really cool stuff comes
Yeah.
out, you know? And, I know we both gotta roll really quick. I would say, I know you're focusing on marketing for lawyers, podcasting. What's the best way people that can find you, get a hold of you? I know you have a few podcasts, but just give people the fastest way to get in touch with you.
Just go to leducentertainment.com, reach out. We're super easy to find. I'm also on every social media site. Oh boy, and I post every day, so super
No,
easy
you're a
to
fun
find.
follow. You're a fun follow,
Thanks.
I would say.
I'm gonna say this in closing, and I have a lot of people that are like, "Hey, Armando, we should do a podcast together," and I'm like, I truly believe that me and you should have a podcast.
Oh, dude.
Like, I think
Alright.
me and you should have a podcast because this the stuff that we talk about is so valuable,
It's fun,
and it's
dude.
such a
I love
it's
it.
deep. It's deep. I think people need to hear these conversations.
Let's find a way, man. We'll continue this offline. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. Well, Armando, dude, it's such a fun time. I wish we could even talk for a few more hours, but another time
another
we
time.
will. And I'm sure we'll connect soon. So this is John Mashni with The Intense Life. We'll talk to you later.